Amazing balance.
Ari, that hat.
It's
I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about.
It is iconic. It challenges the confines of current social structures with regard to fashion.
And yet so classic with the Chuck. I mean, it's Chucks, right? I mean,
Those are Chucks, yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Well, welcome back to Restitching the Tapestry. Tonight is poetry night. This is episode 87, and I think Ari and I a few weeks ago, we kind of had like this moment where we were like, we've not done a poetry episode in a million years, right? So Jared has joined us for poetry episodes before, but this is Heather's debut appearance on a poetry episode, which we're very excited about. So essentially this entire evening for a whole hour is just going to be us vibing, sharing poems, bantering about poems, just gushing in each other's presence of how awesome each of us are at what we do. So sound like a plan? Well, how is everyone doing? We should share that first. Ari, you go first.
Oh, am I going first? I thought
Yes.
we should ask the guests first, since they are a guest in our homes, and they should go first, obviously.
Ari knows how to be mannered, and I don't.
Jared, Heather's one of the. Jared, would you like a glass of something nice? I heard you like Verner's. Would you like a nice Verner's or a nice drink? Would you like to sit in the nice chair? We could put you in the nice chair.
In other words, Jared, would you like to go first?
Yes. I definitely will. Just relaxing, trying to wind down the summer in a peaceful way before it's back to work in the classroom. I felt like June was nicely paced, and then July and August so far is just kind of zipped by. So I need time to slow down. But that being said, I am kind of eager to get back to the classroom. So
I kind of am too.
Not me.
How about you?
I'm not eager for the classroom. Oh wait, I don't teach anymore. Sorry. Yeah, it's been a day. Anyway, everything's going really well in my world. I have some good news. I'm going to be doing a book reading / signing / book talk about my fantasy novels and my poetry book at the Bridgeport Public Library in October, which is really cool because I was born and bred in Bridgeport, Michigan. Yeah. So it's kind of a going home thing and hey, look what I did type thing. So very exciting. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
I do have a question, Jared. You didn't really talk about your books. You talked about your school stuff, but I haven't really been following your book stuff recently. So have you been published recently?
I have been kind of stagnant for a few months. Back in February, A Slice of American Pie came out, which is someone referred to it as an omnibus. And I don't even know if that's like the word that I would use, but I think it makes sense. It's kind of it's a collection of poems and stories from my previous 2 books, but it also includes some new stuff that I'm really proud of. I think it's up there with some of my best material. And so some of that stuff, the new stuff that I had worked on leading up to Pie, I'll be reading tonight. And actually, I'll probably be reading the one poem that I have that is new. So
I like to call a recycling of old with a mix of the new a redux.
I like that.
Ooh,
I do like that.
Redux. I do like that.
So,
Ari, how have you been?
I've been good. I've been training for a 5K. And today I ran about 4 miles in about 55 minutes today.
Awesome.
Wow, that's impressive.
That's
good job.
great.
So, give or take, maybe actually closer to 60 minutes. But I ran consecutively today. I was on fire today. I was like, I don't know how I did this. So I treated myself to a vegan crunch wrap.
You deserve it. Right?
Yeah, so that's how my day went. Donny, how are you?
What? I'm doing well. It's been a really busy day. A lot of like work stuff cropped up, but everything went fine. I actually got to enjoy the morning. I woke up early for a change, which is a rarity for me. And I went for like a 3-mile walk. What else did I do? I actually got to sit down and write. I wrote for an hour,
Wow.
which I normally never do.
Congrats.
Yay.
Thanks. So I got to write a few poems, and I got to write, I got to do some journaling, it's just been nice to kind of decompress a little bit. So, yeah. Well, before we get started doing the poetry, I'm going to go over the show's mission statement because that's tradition, right? All right. We live in a dynamic society where social media shapes us by creating greater opportunities for connection. It has led to a developing understanding of the adversity many marginalized communities face, the powers causing the adversity, and those who act as bystanders as atrocities take place in real time. Our goal with this show is to make connections and have challenging conversations about social topics, current events, pop culture, and art. And together, let's weave the threads of understanding with what privilege we have in order to learn, educate, and create in a world that's growing. And what better way to do that than through poetry, right?
Absolutely.
Right? So, okay. Who wants to go first?
I think
Again, we have a guest.
Jared should go first. Okay. You're up, Jared.
Ari, you were on point tonight. I'm being sloppy.
Well,
I'm a sloppy mess.
I'll start friendly. This is one of the poems that is not an American prize, not an American reality. This is a poem that I wrote for my kids. It is called What It Means to Be a Dad. It's sacrificing who you were, like finally donating those old clothes that you love to Goodwill, even though you swear you'll fit in them again one day. You won't. Let's be honest. It's acknowledging that you're in for fewer date nights because no one is around to watch them while you're out, and accepting that an hour per night watching real crime docs in bed will have to do. It's gaining a few pounds or more because they'll talk you into McDonald's, no matter how hard you try to tell them that McNuggets are pink slime. Home-cooked meals don't come with a toy inside, and you can't put barbecue sauce on a side salad. It's turning off the football game for Peppa Pig, even though her attitude and little British voice haunt your dreams. After all, you've already seen Tom Brady win it all, and you can see it again next year. It's tolerating those earworms with cliched lyrics and no guitars because their tablets died, no matter how many times you told them to keep the stupid things charged, and they hate listening to Bruce Springsteen in the car. It's saying no to a colleague when he invites you to the bar, no matter how much you need that night out because a big test is coming. She needs a study partner, and you can't say no, even if work is hell. It's losing hours of sleep because he woke up crying at 3 a.m., and he won't be able to fall asleep if you don't hold his little hand. Someone needs to protect him from the monster under the bed. So armor up, Sir Exhausted. It's about to be a long day. It's all of these things and more. It's living no longer for yourself, but for someone else. And every I love you, Dad, reminds you that you wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
we do snaps on this, or do we applaud? Because
either or, I was just snapping because I'm here.
Oh, Jared, that was stunning.
It was.
I think my favorite thing about your work is that you really are able to center in on the human experience on a lot of things that I think people overlook, and I feel like that's like a central thread through all of your work, which I really appreciate.
I think you're the first person to tell me that at least that focused on that specific statement, and I really appreciate that because I usually tell people when they ask me what my stuff is about, I tell them, I just write about my world and the people around it. And I think that if we can't, we can have metaphors and really great commentary, but if it's not connected to the reader, to humans, to people, then, a lot of that stuff is just falls flat. It's more like an academic exercise than something that actually is going to make an impact. And so I'm really happy that my stuff comes across that way to you, Donny.
Yeah. So really quick, Leo's here, and Leo's thanking you for staying true to tradition, Ari. So, Heather, would you like to go next?
Sure. But I do have to make one comment, and just off of what you were saying too, Jared, I love your stuff. Just flat out, I love your stuff. I have not read a poem of yours that didn't hit home for me, but the word I always comes to mind is the word heroic. Whenever I read your stuff or I hear you, is heroic, because you have a tendency to take, like, look at the poem that you just read. You made being a dad into a hero. Stuff that people take for granted constantly, you make heroic. So snaps to you, honey.
That's so nice. Thank you, Heather.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I appreciate it. Being a dad is being a husband and being a dad, they're my favorite things in the world. I wear a lot of hats, but those are my most important ones.
I love it. So the poems I'm reading from mostly tonight are from my Airless Store collection. The last one I'd like to end on, though, is I am working on another poetry collection. So I'll talk about that one later. But the first poem I'm going to read tonight, this one, actually, the inspiration was an old red swing set that I saw on the drive home from work one day. And it got me thinking about childhood and how, because at the time when I drove by, all of the swings were like all wound across the top bar. So you couldn't even swing on it anymore. And I don't know if they were mowing the lawn or why it was, but it just kind of hit home that as we get older, our swings get more and more wound around this bar, and childhood things get put away. So the red swing set. There is an image in my mind, lined in charcoal and shaded with colored pencil, of swing sets and slides that took me to higher climbs where the air was too thin and my secret self soared wingless over maple trees and lily pads. Of this image, it's the outline that I remember most, as the shadows are corralled by the lines we must color in. Now the swings sway gently in an invisible wind, as if ghostly children have wrapped tiny fingers through the metal chains that will hold them in place as adults. The seats are wound tight against the red bar, and the paint is christened burnt umber. The slide slips them toward time's eventuality, and playgrounds, once populated with dreams, are arid deserts and dusty climbs where swings sit untried. Yeah.
Goodness. And I know that some of your other work does this too. Like, you really can draw out the nostalgia in a scene, in an object, in a person, and that really hit it. That really hit it for me.
Oh, thank you.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there's kind of a sense of like a rusted metal quality to it. It kind of reminds me of when, again, that nostalgia feeling of like when I was a kid. I'm not even sensing like a swing set that I'm sensing of like what it's making me remind myself of when I was a kid. It's those, remember those like radio flyers?
Yes.
It's reminding me of radio flyer wagons for some reason, but like summer and like dirt in the bottom of it, that smell of like dirt on hot metal, and like so like that I don't know why that is, but like when you're talking about these swing sets, like that's like the visual and like mental imagery I'm getting from it. I don't know why that is.
No, that's perfect. That's, whether it's a swing set or the radio flyer, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, either could work. I'm familiar with this poem. This is one of my favorite poems of yours. And I don't even know if I told you this, but I taught this poem.
You did?
Yeah, in my classroom. And to my 9th and 10th graders, and we had good conversation about it, and I came up with some prompts for it, and yeah, it was good. It was a
Oh my
great.
God, I'm nerding out. No, you never told me that. I am so nerding out. Oh, thank you.
No,
Oh
it's
yeah,
really
that's
good
awesome.
for all of the reasons that Donny and Ari pointed out.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, next person.
Ari, would you like to go next?
No, I'd like to go last.
Okay, I'll go next then. So do I want to start out with a heavy piece or a lighthearted piece? Let's see.
Going strong, start and light.
Okay, you've convinced me. I did a video of this poem probably about a month ago or so, and it's the first piece that I wrote after a very, very long stint of zero writing productivity. So like I put out my last poem collection, Feats of Alchemy, and for like months I was just very, very, very stagnant. And then suddenly, like this one night, this poem fell right out of me. And I essentially wrote it about, it's kind of a sassy poem about um, the man that people expect us to be, like ascribing to like, you know, these different male standards, these different masculine standards, which, you know, I write about quite a bit in a lot of my work. So
Gender
this
stereotypes.
exactly, yeah.
Mhm.
So this poem is titled Had I Been the Man They Wanted. Had I been the man they wanted, I would have never crossed my legs because I was always taught a man should consume as much space as possible. Had I been the man they wanted, I would have replaced the sweater draped around my head with a baseball cap because no man should pretend to have long hair. Had I been the man they wanted, I would have never tried on my cousin's dress. After all, rose print never matched mud-caked scrapes across such yard-hardened knees. Had I been the man they wanted, I would have bit my lip till it bled to stave the need to cry, as swollen cheeks and reddened eyes made me weak. Had I been the man they wanted, I would have replaced my saxophone with a football to soak myself in cheers and rise in ranks as a childhood hometown star. Had I been the man they wanted, I would have put down the pen and picked up the hammer, because there's no way to feed a family with art. Had I been the man they wanted, I would have swallowed gravel to make this voice an octave lower than the dog whistle they referred to me as. Had I been the man they wanted, I would have replaced these tight jeans for military fatigues, to follow in the footsteps of all the boys post-high school. Had I been the man they wanted, I would have picked up a fishing pole instead of a pot of flowers. I would have drowned in Bible verses instead of romantic love songs. I would have faked a smile instead of being honest about myself. I would have sabotaged any happiness to sustain their expectations.
Wow.
That's a hard one to read. That's really
I
hard
really
to read.
liked the hard and knees. That line was really good.
Mhm.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And I also really liked the line about biting your lip to prevent from crying. That line was really good too. The whole imagery kind of reminded me of like, I don't know why I saw this, but it kind of reminded me of Scout from To Kill a
To Kill a
Mockingbird.
Mm.
Yeah.
But it was like a reverse Scout because you're a boy, so it was like
Yeah.
this weird, like, you know what I mean? Because it's like Scout was trying to be a boy, but you're a boy who's trying to subvert the gender roles. So it's like it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Thank you. That was my goal with the piece for sure. I've kind of written some similar my poem Boys Will Be Boys was kind of similar to this, but like I really wanted to hone in on like a lot of the other things that are kind of like micro, what is the word? I don't want to say micro images and the stereotypes, but like specific things that like rural America grabs onto when it
Mhm.
comes to defining what makes a man, right?
Right.
So
Your work always has a tendency to leave me with a lot of emotions all at once. I get angry, I want to cry, I want to jump up and down. I mean, just, with joy at the tail end, when basically you're saying, I'm me and go fuck yourselves. It's oh, I probably shouldn't have said that, sorry. But yeah, I just, when the thing about swallowing gravel, I wanted to cry. And the dog whistle thing, okay, who said that? I want their name type situation. So it always, your stuff just always touches chords every single time.
thank you.
Okay, so my comments are going to be a little bit different. First of all, I will just say this: like, there are lots of really good lines, like the ones that Ari and Heather pointed out. I was drawn to the whole hammer and pen contrast.
Mhm.
I really like that a lot. But I thought about this when you were reading it. I think I've read it before. I thought about this as a teacher, because the structure that you're working with is pretty familiar. Like, it's a pretty general structured piece, and because of that, if this piece was written the wrong way, it could come across as really elementary. But the thing that makes this works, and any poem like this, what makes this work is the really good details, the examples that you're using to put the picture together. They have to be relatable. They have to be specific. They have to apply to the theme. You did that really well. And the other thing that I really liked is that final stanza where it's a bunch of quick examples together. Because that's one thing when I'll assign an assignment similar to this, that kids will struggle with. They'll say, well, how do I end it? That's a great way to end it. And so and obviously it's really personal as well. And that comes across. Yeah, this is a really, really nice poem, Donny.
Thank you. I've been trying to get a little bit more comfortable with repetition in my poems, because I used to not do any repetition, but now I'm at this point where I'm like, I want to try to make it more accessible in certain ways, because people really respond to stuff like that, so thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. All right, Ari.
Oh, it's my turn.
Yeah. Yes, of course.
Yes, yeah, I love how you feel so surprised.
Oh, shit. It's my turn. Okay. So I used to write every day, 6 poems a day, and then I suffered a disappointment probably end of June, where I got waitlisted for grad school, and I was really depressed about that. I was really insecure about my writing, and I stopped writing and basically creating completely for up until this week. Totally. Just so all of a sudden it was just like poetry was just like, hey, remember me? Remember me? You can't escape me. You're a writer. And I'm like, right. So it started in comment sections of all places, if you know me, the David Lynch weather report. So here are the poetry that I wrote in the comment section of the David Lynch weather report. Here we go. The first one is called Sprung Forth. It begins with a gentle inhale in the darkness. Take it in, that first moment before consciousness, before awareness, just the cooling of the lava as it exits Mother Earth, cradled in the squall of the newly birthed island, sprung forth from Zeus's brow, or else coming straight from the frothy, suggestive, sea foamy chocolate delight. There's a big apple, but also I want to see Paris. And somewhere, somehow, the ship's gone down before I can go home.
Oh, oh my goodness.
I love it.
So basically, the whole thing is mythology. It's about Aphrodite. It's about about mythology.
Wow, I didn't
So-
get that at all. That's cool.
But now that you like, so that you really root the references in like actual physical things happening in the earth itself. Like when you were describing like the geology interacting like with the ocean and stuff like that, like it sounded very sultry. I really thought that was an interesting and engaging choice, and I think that was definitely powered by those phenomenal sensory details.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I'm just I mean, but you do that all the time though. Like that's something that I think you do very well in all of your work. Like you are able to hone in on very specific images.
Yeah, I didn't practice the physical delivery, the verbal delivery of it, so I feel like it wasn't as powerful verbally as I wanted it.
I don't know. I think
I know.
Jared, I think you have something to say about that.
Yeah, I really do. Maybe Ari, you just needed a break. That was like what I was thinking. Like maybe you just needed a break because I'm just gonna straight out tell you this might be my I like your work a lot. This might be my favorite piece I've heard of yours. I mean I thought the verbal delivery was fine, but I got like this whole essence of like universe origin, like that first breath in the darkness and you're waking up and like all of a sudden. And you mentioned Aphrodite, but the apple reference slipped in there. So I was thinking like Garden of Eden. And then, of course, like we know all that. But then you're like, but I want Paris, not the apple. And I'm like, okay, so like this thing has been created and I'm trying to figure out myself. But I know I don't want that. I want something else. And it's kind of like taking agency. Like I might have, like I'm new in this universe and I'm trying to figure it out. But I know what I don't want. And that's what's being dictated. And I love that. I mean, that's what came across to me. If you would email this to me, Ari, this might end up in my classroom as well. And so
Yay,
please,
Ari.
like send that to me because I'm already thinking of prompts for that. This is a wonderful poem.
And for me,
go ahead. Just
Ari.
let me know your email address afterwards, and I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
So, and I totally agree with Jared. But for me, the strongest part was the last part where you talked about the ship has gone down and there's no going home, because you know what? There's no going back. I loved that changes throughout the poem. And at the end, there is no going back, because once life has changed you and you've made those decisions and you've put that first foot in front of the other, you can't go back. I loved it. Loved it.
Yeah.
Leo loved it too. I love comment section poetry. That's such an interesting concept.
It's such a throwback to deviant art. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, yes, DeviantArt. All right.
I realize we're already halfway through the show and we've only done one poem.
Oh my God, I know. Okay. Well, the rest of mine are very short, so.
Okay.
Jared,
back up.
Well, because I am also watching the clock and I have to get this one in. This is definitely what's the darkest thing that I had pegged, but it's certainly the one that is the darkest for me. Like I think it was, I can't remember which one of you pointed it out. You've all pointed it out to me at some point. But social commentary is obviously something that I do a lot in my work. But most of my social commentary stuff is mixed in with a little humor and a little snark, and there's none of that in this. This writing this is it's definitely one of two poems that I was the angriest when I wrote it. It was the last piece that I wrote that went into American Pie. Um, I'm sure all of you are familiar with Native American boarding schools in Canada and the United States. Well, where I live in Mount Pleasant, there's one like literally 5 minutes walking distance, not driving distance, walking distance from my house. And having been aware of what happened there to kids, physical abuse, death, like just forced assimilation, just horrific stuff. Every time I drive by that place, it feels like how Germans must feel when they drive by concentration camps. That's how I feel. I wanted to write about this place for a long time. I finally got it in the book, and I'm so glad that it's in the book because it's a really important poem for me. And there's some other things in here too that are important for me, but the boarding school itself is the surface point. This poem is called "To the Students of the Mount Pleasant Indian Industrial Boarding School, 1893 to 1934. I am sorry. There is nothing I could say that would adequately express my sadness, my discomfort, and my shame every single time I drive by the decrepit remains of that American concentration camp, on my way home to hug my own children, my white children, who will never have to suffer as you did. I do not expect forgiveness for a race, for a country that doesn't deserve it. How could anyone expect you to erase our atrocities from your blackboard like we eliminated your culture, language, your freedom, all in the name of education, of killing the Indian to save the man? As if you couldn't be both, as if you were somehow less human than the monsters who stole you from the arms of adoring parents, transported you via rail like cattle to the complex where they stripped you of your clothes and your dignity as they doused you with insecticide, chopped off your hair, stealing what pride you had left so that you wouldn't cry as much when they took away your belongings, your photos of those who loved you, and even your names, your identities, bestowing you instead with the names of those who abused you, tortured you, forced you to work the hard labor that children who looked like them had already been spared, buried the bodies of your friends on campus without telling their families, even a century after the crimes were committed, and then still had the gall to tell you that only Jesus could save you from hell, as if you didn't already know what eternal damnation felt like, as if they weren't the ones who damned you. No, we are the ones who need an education, to know that not all devils are named Satan or Adolf, that some of them act in the name of a nation that preaches equality and justice for all. And that's why I swear to expose my students to the truth that some still want to hide, those who still want us to believe that America is a shining city on a hill, and that we have been absolved of our sins simply because we asked for forgiveness. No, I'm not asking to be forgiven. You deserve better, more than I could ever give you, more tears than I could ever shed. But I promise you this, they'll never stop me from telling your story. Until I am dragged away to the jail or the grave, they will not win. You will never be silenced.
Wow.
Wow. I'm crying, Jared. Thank you. Oh my God.
And I think that poem, it's so important right now, especially with the attacks that we've seen on education and trying to limit what children are taught with regard to history.
And see, that's the other reason why I wrote this poem. Not just as a message to these kids, but because of that, because they want us to scrap these kids' story. And that really bothers me. And not just these kids, but other Native kids, other kids who have been oppressed for whatever reason. And just for us to pretend like that stuff didn't happen, that's a crime. That's criminal. I referenced Germany. Germany doesn't hide it. Germany teaches about the atrocities and said we can't do it again. Why can't we do that? It's shameful. And yet we call ourselves the greatest country on earth. We got a long way to go. We have a long way to go as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And it hits me hardest as a teacher, because they're telling us that we have to hide this. Some people are telling us that we have to hide this, and I just won't do it.
Good for you.
Yes.
That's good for you. Wow. I used to teach my students, we would do little sections on history in our English classes, and we would talk about how, history is written by the victors. Your history books are a lie. They are a lie, or at least they're half truths. It's we would talk about point of view in the classroom, and we would talk about things like, say, the Revolutionary War, for example. What we view as the American Revolution is vastly different than what Great Britain views it as.
Right.
So I have no words, Jared. I have no words. I'm sitting here crying. It was amazing.
Thank you. That's and I'm glad that you taught history with your English classes, because I do that all the time. Like, I taught history too. I haven't taught an official history class in a while, but everything I teach, I'm mixing in history and context, because so many of those great books have lessons that we still need to learn.
Exactly.
And history books don't do it. And if an English teacher is just going to assign worksheets and memorize the book, kids, like, that's not going to do it either. You have to go over these things. And sometimes you have to make it relevant. And a lot of them, the classic books are relevant, and they have important lessons to teach.
Yeah, and I fully believe that you cannot remove the history from the writing of that story. That all books were written from a point of view within the period of time they come from. Even if they are non-historical, they're still, like, even if they're futuristic. Right. There was a reason it was written at that time.
Sure. The greatest science fiction, I say it all the time, the greatest science fiction isn't great unless it makes a connection with the people reading it.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree too. Like, going back really quick, I know I'm trying to be conscious of the time. You know me, I like to blab. But like, you made a point before reading this poem, Jared, to comment on how this piece doesn't have like that same sarcasm that most of your pieces have. I think that's what makes it very powerful, because it's unexpected too. Because you're pulling back the sarcasm and the banter, and you're really exposing the reader to these atrocities that should not be in any way be distracted with any of that additional stuff. So I think that choice was very powerful for you to make.
Thank you.
It was good. I don't have much to say. I think it speaks for itself. So that's why I'm not really talking, is because it speaks for itself. I don't think there's really much to say, and that it's very powerful. So yeah. It's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's one of those pieces where, like, you listen to it and you're just like,
yeah.
Like, emotionally you're processing it, and it's like, oh my God.
Well, if nothing else, it shows it took us several heartbeats when you were done to applaud, because we were just so it's awe-inspiring. It really is.
Yeah. Heather.
Yes. Okay, so since we are getting very close to time, I'm just going to skip to the last poem I was going to read tonight. This one, it's going to be in my newer collection, which I've entitled Reign of Butterflies, REIGN, Rain. So the backstory behind this poem is, if you've read any of my poetry before, you know that I do talk about being bullied quite a bit in it. And my poetry, what's happening now is that I'm getting past I feel so sorry for myself that I was bullied, to being angry. I'm very angry about what happened to me, and I'm very angry that it happens today to people, you know, and what's going on in my life is the reason I was bullied is because I'm a heavyset woman. And this poem is about me embracing that. This poem is also for every woman out there who's ever been treated like property, or has ever been, you know, dismissed because of what they look like. So yeah, so this is for you. And I've never read this one out loud, so bear with me. All right. Rain of butterflies. We are painted swallowtails, perched on windowsills and blue ribbons, our colors displayed for hungry eyes like trophies pinned behind tinted glass. Wearing our mourning cloaks beneath bright pageantry, we flutter our wings sensually because, since our chrysalis days, that is all we've been told our patterns are for. And if our pearly eyes were not bright enough, if they looked to horizons beyond paint by number nuances, we're dubbed sphinxes with riddles too difficult to unravel and become specimens mummified. But we are monarchs, queens ringed in gold and black hues, and we wear our beauty like warriors and take to dusky wing for ourselves, leaving trophy cases to wither beneath our shadows.
Wow. Ooh.
Thank you.
There were so many, and again, this is something I enjoy in a lot of your work too. Like you incorporate a lot of like duality in your imagery that you use. Like for this butterfly imagery, we get like the stereotypical imagery of a beautiful, delicate butterfly, you know, etc. But you illustrate the butterfly as being like a warrior powering through like this material existence that's thrown at us that we measure ourselves by, you know. And that like that really resonates with me a lot. So that phenomenal.
Can I piggyback on that, or do you want to go first, Ari?
Huh?
Do you want to go first with comments? I have something to piggyback on what Donny was saying.
Oh no, go ahead.
Okay. See, I really, just to go back to what Donny was saying regarding the butterfly, and listening to the backstory on the piece, I don't know if I would have needed, honestly. If I was just reading this on a page, I would have like figured a lot of this stuff out, even without the backstory, which is a good thing, I think. I love the metamorphosis story because you were talking about yourself as being dynamic in the sense that, you know, you've changed your attitude about things and you're embracing what once made you feel, I don't know if insecure is the right word, but vulnerable maybe. And that's why a metamorphosis metaphor works really well here. And then also, like Donny was saying, it's not like the helpless, like delicate butterfly. You know, that's why I like your choice of monarch, because you're talking about warriors, and monarchs makes me think like medieval times and fighting and swords. And also monarch butterflies are very colorful and loud and powerful, bright orange and black, you know. And so I just really like the way those details add to the meaning of this poem. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Very, very great.
Thank you.
Heather, I just like hearing you talk. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm not gonna lie. So you started talking, and I heard you like mention the swallowtail in the window, and then I just like stopped hearing the specific like words of what you were saying, and I just was like hearing the soothing sound of your voice, and I was just like hearing about like all of. I was just like kind of just like beautifully dreaming about like. Just like, I don't know, beautiful, like strong butterflies. And like, I don't even know where I was, but I was in this beautiful, strong, wonderful place about like how I should love myself. And I don't even know where I was, but I was in my happy place and you were there with me and I was just enjoying myself. So I don't know. Thank you. Thank you for bringing me there into my Zen mode, like with your beautiful voice. Thank you. I don't know. So
thank you. That was awesome.
It's a very ethereal piece, you know, and I just had a random thought too. The fact that monarch butterflies are just labeled endangered species, like that poem kind of takes on a whole nother power too by making the reference
When I
to
was
them.
writing it, I actually have butterflies are kind of my spirit animal, to be honest. That and dinosaurs, but dinosaurs are dead. So, any rate, but Reign of Butterflies. When I was writing this, I have a book called the Butterflies of North America, and I opened it, and there are the swallowtails, the blue ribbons, the morning cloaks, the pearly eyes. These are all butterfly names, every single one of them. And I had though I was looking for the power in the piece, I had so much fun just playing with butterfly names. It was so cool to do that. I'm like, oh my God, this is such a cool word. I got to figure out how to put this in. So yeah, I love it. I loved using that, but I knew I had to save monarchs for the end. I knew I had to do that because of the, like what Jared said. So, and then Ari, that was so sweet. Thank you.
I'm
Honey,
nerding
you're
out.
up.
This is so fun. Okay, so this poem, all right, a little context. I have made the decision to take on more work than before, and I am on top of writing my third collection of poetry. I'm working on a chapbook of poetry, completely separate. And right now it's tentatively titled Casting Seeds Along the Path. So I'm going back to my nature roots with poetry because I really just wanted to hone in on it. And the entire collection will be Tanka style poems. So like very short form poems. So this piece is a poem it's very short, but it's titled The Way We Allow Ourselves to Be Harvested. From seedlings to twigs, we givers give till we rot and become hollow. Our brittle limbs snap, then fall, a whisper in a snow squall. And that's it. It's short and sweet.
I love Tonka. I just love how it sounds. It's got such a nice sound to it. But boy, do I hear the empath in that very much. The empath that gives and gives and gives, but never seems to get anything back. That hit me square is, within this poem. So it's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. When I wrote it, I was actually thinking about teaching, believe it or not, because as teachers, like we put out, we give, even at our own expense most of the time, right?
Absolutely.
But we still kind of find ourselves lost in that storm, right?
Is that why it has fall vibes?
Yeah, I would say so. Because like it just over the past few years, like with everything that's been happening, like it just feels like everything's in the state of decay. I don't know if that makes sense. And while fall is beautiful and I love fall and I could write 10 million poem collections about that season, I just can't get over the metaphorical significance of the fact that we try to dress up that decay as being something beautiful all the time.
Yeah, have I read this one? I know that you.
No, this is new. This is the first time I've ever read it.
I think it's really interesting the way you brought up teaching. For me, I would not have thought about that. Instead, I was thinking about just kind of like how we're like in the history of the universe, we're all just a bunch of blips. Like we're almost unnoticeable, and yet so many people strive so hard to like make this impact, to do these things, to stand out, to be. To do the right, and not I was gonna say to be important, but that could be a negative, and that's not what I meant. But ultimately, we can try so hard to do these things, but ultimately, like you said, we're just brittle and we're gonna fall apart, and that's the way it is. And you could take a look at it and just say, well, I just kind of accept that and I'm okay with it. But should we really, in the sense that, especially if we try so hard to do the right thing, and then it is. It's sad. Which I'm thinking is probably what you were going for.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Yes. And so I think the meaning comes through really well.
thank you.
It's kind of like what's the point? And I think that poem delivered it really well. It was very nice, Donny.
Thank you. I really like I think I wrote it around a time also where I was like reevaluating purpose. Like I was just like, what's my purpose? Like, what am I doing? What's going on? And I was just like, wow, this is some heavy stuff. But I think the thing I like about tankas is that for me, like I do have moments in poetry where I don't like to be too blatantly obvious about what I'm writing about, and I think the small size of tankas allows me to withhold enough for people to allow their own interpretation to come forth, which was what you did, Jared. And I think that interpretation really connects with the original intent that I had for the piece. Nerding out. Ari, it's your turn.
You're ready.
Okay, so I have a couple of choices for the last poem, and I'm not sure which one I want to do. So I have one where I write a love poem to poetry itself, or I wrote one about midnight cowboys.
Oh, that's tough. Don't make me pick.
So we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. Odd, even.
Are you gonna eeny, meeny, miny, moe it?
No, you're gonna. Everybody's gonna pick a number, odd or even.
Even for me.
Even, odd. Donny, you're the tiebreaker.
Odd. Because I'm an odd duck, damn it.
Mostly just because it's an appropriate piece to end a poetry episode.
Yes.
Midnight Cowboy it is. Here we go. It's perfect.
Amy Lee Forever says both.
Here we go. Midnight Cowboy. Denizen days of dime a dozen nights, hot with the sticky sweat of all the midnight cowboys that ride their fastidiousness into the next starlight dawn. Another day has come and gone, but still we go on. Carousel sun to moon and swirling skies. Back again. You met me when I needed it most. In the dirty, dark restaurant kitchen, getting scrubbed down for the health inspector mission the next day. I am the missing receipt that you found beneath the industrial microwave, and you said calmly that you like food home cooked. And I went back out into the heat, back into the beginning with the warning scorpion.
Ooh. Oh.
I love the sound.
Yes.
Just the sounds were amazing. It's like it just kept blowing my mind, especially the beginning. Oh my God, the sounds were awesome.
And I can't do that. And so I'm jealous of anybody.
I can't either. All right, the sound in conjunction with the sensory detail is what really does it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're a very skilled performer in general. Like you have a very good way of, because I think part of our instinct when we're reading poetry is we just kind of like an automaton, just read through it. None of us here, I don't think, do that. But like if you're at a poetry reading, you see that often, right? But you slow it down and you allow like your audience to like absorb each word and each line. And I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually, I didn't even practice that. That was the first time I actually read it and like did a first read through of it. So thank you.
Which is, it impresses the hell out of me.
It really is. It's always an awkward experience for me to read a poem for the first time out loud, and it's always clunky. I had one of those experiences in my classroom at the end of the year. I was trying to figure out which piece I was going to read for our classes, poetry reading, and the kids all picked the one that I had read the most. And I told them, I'm like, well, listen, like this comes across like as a good reading, not because the poem is any better than the others. It's because I've read this one the most.
Yeah.
So the fact that you could just do that, that's really cool. I just, again, like both of these poems, like I've liked your work before, but I like these two poems maybe more than all the stuff I've read of yours so far. And it's just the transition from this very romantic cowboy image and how you connect that. Even the transition is even great to the restaurant worker, and how you make them and how you tie them together and make them, kind of like similar characteristics. And you end with the scorpion. I'm like, wow, you just transition from romance to reality. So cool with this. I just think it's fantastic. I mean, how many great works of lit do we see with like these romantic idealists get slammed by reality? Like it's, and I'm not saying that it's been done 1,000 times, because that's not it. It's just like the way you did it with these specific characters and jumping time periods. It was really nice. I really enjoyed this.
I really got, like, I 100% agree with that one. I really got caught up in the image of the discarded receipt under the industrial
My favorite
microwave.
image.
Yes.
My favorite image.
That was like, I mean, I feel like there could be so much to unpack with that. Like how, like, maybe the persona in the poem, like one of the personas felt discarded, or maybe how we tend to overlook things that are, beneath the surface, right? Like that really got that little squirrel in my brain going.
What I want is a copy of this poem and just to sit and play with it. I want to play with it and follow the imagery throughout, like what Jared was saying, how those transitions happen. I want to play with it and watch it, and it makes me want to teach again, which is saying something. I want to play with it. I want to see what other people come up with. I mean, it's yeah, I love it.
Oh my goodness. This has been so fun, my friends.
Yeah.
Oh, Amy Lee Forever says, yeah, I need this in a song. Sing it now. There was kind of like a sing-song quality to it.
Yes.
I'll get a hold of Brotherwell. We'll make something happen.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so for the last few minutes of this episode, I think we should talk about projects that we're doing, give ourselves an opportunity to direct people to where they can find more of our stuff. So, Jared, would you like to go first?
Sure. I guess I'll start with the sales pitch first. I do have all 3 books for sale on Amazon.com. You can also email me at jaredmorningstar@gmail.com if you wish, and I'd be happy to, send you a signed copy, and we can work it out either way. In terms of the books, the earlier collections, I think, are kind of cool because they had their own creative statement at the time. Though I would recommend this one just because I think that even though it's made up a lot of 2 different collections, that it flows well. Like all of the stuff flows together pretty well. Plus, you just get more stuff. So yeah, Amazon or jaredmorningstar@gmail.com. But the fun thing is that, speaking of Brotherwell, we've let the cat out of the bag a little bit. We haven't talked about too many details, but I think that it's safe for me to say that he and I are working on a full-length record. With my collection of poems, it's probably about 70% completed. And so hopefully by the end of the year, the Jared Morningstar Brotherwell album will be out there. Mount Pleasant is one of the poems that has been turned into a song, and I'm just really excited about that first and foremost right now.
That's so
do you
exciting.
do you have a title for the album yet?
I think that we're just going to call it A Slice of American Pie, like the collection. And I think it fits based on the tracks that I know that are on there. I think it fits pretty well. I mean, it's basically just taking stuff that's already from the book. So, so yeah, it's I'll keep everybody posted.
I am nerding out about that.
Me
It's
too.
the stuff that's been done is already, it's wonderful. I can't believe it. I never thought I'd be in this position that I was going to have a record out. But that's the situation.
I may have listened to a couple of the songs, and I can vouch that if my reaction says anything, that's what I'm saying. Very good. Heather, how about you?
So I'll do the sales pitch as well. My poetry collection, The Airless Door, is available on Amazon, as well as my fantasy novels, the Clandestine series. Let's see what else. What am I working on? Oh, I did get 2 more chapters done of my mystery novel this week. So I am so close to being done. I could taste it. I'm not quite, to the point of editing, but man, I am so close. And I'm also working on that other poetry collection called The Reign of Butterflies, like I said, which I do not have a date for release on that one yet. It's not polished. I haven't written the intros. Yeah, but it's a work in progress. So I'm hoping. I kind of made myself a promise that I wouldn't publish anything this year, because I have published a book every year since 2018. I promised myself I would give myself a 1-year break. So either the mystery novel or the poetry collection will be out sometime next year. One of the two, whichever comes out first.
Oh my goodness. Amy Lee Forever says, I'm sad I missed the opportunity to call some of your poems artsy fartsy. Just one would have made my day. Just kidding, y'all.
You can call my poems artsy fartsy. That's fine.
I would consider that a huge compliment.
I love it.
Ari, how about you?
I had a poetry chat book come out this year, Psalm of the Psych Ward, through Dumpster Fire Press. You can find that on Amazon.
I love it. I love that book. Sorry.
Oh, you do? It's a
Me
pretty
too.
good book. Oh, that's right. You did the proofing of it.
Yeah, I did.
It's a pretty good book. I really liked making it. I wrote it entirely in the mental hospital that I had to go last December. I was experiencing a manic episode, so I had to go into the hospital for several weeks. So I felt the urge to write that during that time, to catalog my experience. It was kind of, it's not the first time that I felt the urge to create while I was in the hospital. I feel like it's kind of a universal experience. When I was in the publishing process for this book, I discovered that there were several other authors through other various publishers that had been doing the same thing. And it seems to be quite a universal experience. So it's definitely, my experience is definitely not unique in that sense of wanting to create while you're kind of interned. But I feel like it is a unique experience, and that it is my own, and that my perspective is definitely unique. So it's definitely worth a read.
What's the title again?
Psalm of the Psych Ward.
Thank you.
I can vouch for all of the books that have been mentioned so far. They are all amazing. So
should we all mention too that all 4 of us, by the way, you can also get our books at the Vintage Greenhouse in Bay City if you live local. All 4 of us sell through them through a company called Leopard Print Books, which is inside Vintage Greenhouse. So if you want, get your hands on a copy immediately, go to the Vintage Greenhouse in Bay City. It's on Water Street.
That's true.
I mean, I don't really have a lot to plug. My book Feats of Alchemy came out last fall. It's hard to believe that we're coming up on a year since it's been out. But I'm very, this is a very personal collection to me. It's darker. If you like sci-fi, grungy, cyberpunky stuff with a dollop of super queerness, Feats of Alchemy.
It's a phenomenal
I give it a 10.
collection, Donny. Phenomenal collection.
Oh,
I give it a
you.
10.
Thank you. And I know we all have like sites or pages, like I'll have all of those listed down in the description section of the video once it's done processing after the fact. But do we have any parting words before we leave this evening? Advice for readers.
Artsy fartsy.
You know, honestly, that's the perfect way to end. A toot. Like, a good old toot. Let's write a
Well,
poem
we just
about
all
that.
tooted our own horns. Dun, dun, dun. That's bad. That is such a bad pun. That's awful. Yeah. I'm so
That was
ashamed of
amazing.
myself. It was terrible.
That made my day. Well, my friends, thank you for joining us this evening. Jared and Heather, thank you for sharing your work with us. Ari, you as well. Ari, thank you for being my diligent co-host as always. Heather, thank you for being our guest co-host for the past few episodes. We really appreciate it. And just love all around. Lots of love forever. All right, everyone, you have a good night. Bye.